Thank you so much for joining me for our edification. I'm Eddie Francis, and I am podcasting at Podapalooza today, which we have a lot of speakers who are in the house, and they are all telling folks about the good stuff that they talk about. And of course, one of them is sitting right here with me. Her name is Andrea C. McLean, and she talks about from setback to soaring, the mindset shift women need to lead their lives forward. Now, Andrea is a board certified coach, speaker, and award winning author of Decide to Be Your Future Self. I love that title, by the way.
Thank you.
And she's a creator of the SOAR method. And so I want to find out about that. But, Andrea, how are you doing?
I'm doing well today. I'm happy to be back at Podapalooza. This is my second time doing it, and it's great to get to talk to so many podcasters in one sitting.
Ah, that's pretty cool. This is my first one, so I
Ah,
have the podcast version of Sensory Overload right now.
yeah, I know. It
I'm like,
is.
wait, what's going on? What do I do? Did I press the right button? Who are you? So that's what I'm going through. So first of all, tell me about what it is that you do, but let's talk about what problem it is that you try to help people solve in their lives.
I help primarily women, but I help them to shift their mindsets and to start a transformation of who they can become in their futures. And so I leverage some of my experiences going through my corporate career and then branching out now as a coach to help others to lean into what they could become and to, have that vision for what that future could look like.
That's interesting. So first of all, what did you do in corporate America? What kind of work?
Well, I started out in product development for a food company because I have a chemistry undergrad. But then I transitioned into the customer care space and then started to lead global organizations in customer care. And my last role was actually leading a global center of excellence for compliance in the customer care space. So dealt with a lot of the regulations, for multiple countries, whether it was in Asia or Europe or in the US, and just made sure that whatever we did to service our consumers was compliant with all the laws and regulations.
Oh man. Okay, so you have some pretty interesting work.
Oh, it was fascinating. I loved doing it. It was fascinating. But
Mhm.
in addition to that, I was also one of the co-leads for the Women's Leadership Network Employee Resource Group and had been the head of the mentorship and sponsorship pillars for a few years as well, and had coached women throughout my career. And so that's why I leaned into doing coaching now full time after I came to a point where I didn't get a promotion that I was expecting and decided that it was time for me to decide to be my future self.
So you talk about mindset and mindset shift, and I'm sure that people they'll see something about mindset shift, especially coming from a speaker. And I'm sure there are times when people might look at it and they'll say, "Oh man, more mindset stuff, more mindset shift stuff." But it seems to me that the more the better. It seems like there are a lot of people, no matter how many times you speak to a group and you're thinking to yourselves, okay, maybe they need it, maybe they don't. But then somebody comes to you afterward and they'll say, thank you so much. I needed this. And are you often surprised that you will get that kind of response from people no matter how many people you talk to?
Yeah, I get it because mindset is where it starts. It's not the end all be all, but you have to shift the mindset to start the journey. And so you had mentioned the SOAR method that I created, and S stands for shift your mindset. So it's actually the first step in my framework. And then the O is overcoming challenges, because life always has challenges.
Mhm.
And then the A is activating your plan, because if you don't take action, it's just a dream or a wish. So you have to take action to get to where you are hoping to be in your future. And then the R is reflect and refine. So reflecting along the journey, the progress you've made, so that you can celebrate and not wait till you get to the desired destination before you celebrate, but celebrate along the way as you reflect, but then also refine because life isn't static. So you might decide you want to pivot a little bit or tweak, the vision, and that's fine. We can give ourselves permission to do that.
And sometimes we're forced to tweak.
Yeah, that happens too. Yes.
Trust me, I've been through it.
Okay.
So, um, to me, I think one of the biggest things that impacts our mindset is how resilient we are.
Hmm.
And I think for us to personally grow and develop, we really, really have to lean into resilience a lot. So for you, what
Hmm.
are the times that you've had to be resilient, especially what led you to this point of wanting to share your message? I mean, what kinds of setbacks have you experienced that have made you want to share your message?
Yeah, sure. And it's funny. I also have another acronym related to resilience, but I'll share that in a little bit. So I was in corporate America. I think I may have just mentioned it. I was expecting to get a promotion, working towards it. I didn't get it. And so I had to make a choice. Was I going to be resilient in that moment and figure out how I could bounce back from that? Or was I going to just put my hands up in the air, give up and say, well, I guess this is it. Just stick it out and, just ride it out. And so it's about resilience is not about, not dealing with the issue, but it's about how we come back and learn from the issue. And so I began the journey. At that point, I decided, I think I mentioned I had a chemistry undergrad. So I decided at that point that I wanted to do a master's in organizational leadership.
Mhm.
And this was in my 50s, early 50s. So, I'm going back to school. I have a global full-time role. I'm on calls till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night sometimes if it's Asia. So it was quite a hurdle to juggle everything and, family obligations, etc. But I decided that for me to get to where I wanted to go, I just felt I needed to have some more credentials in the organizational leadership space. And then I also did my coaching certifications along with that. But again, you talk about resilience. Along the journey, 2.5 years in, I then became caregiver for my ailing mother. So I was now juggling caregiving plus school plus work plus family. And so, it's like you just have to keep going and look for the learnings and not beat yourself up because it's almost like a rubber band is how I look at it. You're pulling on these rubber bands and you're creating a ball with the rubber bands. And at any moment, you're thinking, could it burst? But you never know how far you can get until you're stretched.
Yeah.
And that's where the resilience comes in. So I actually had an executive vice president in my last company look at me one day and she said, you're very resilient. And I think it's just because I've learned how to adapt and that's why I want to share the message about not just transforming yourself and deciding to be your future, but you also have to be resilient along the journey. And
Mhm.
so the acronym I was mentioning, I have another acronym, which is FLAP. And I thought of it like, a bird is flapping its wings,
Yeah.
and the flap is face life's adversities and persevere. And that's really what resilience is all about. It's learning, it's growing.
Yeah, yeah. So two things that you mentioned where
Mhm,
you and I are a lot alike.
mhm.
I got my master's degree in strategic leadership, and I got it when I was 50.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so there was the story that, and I'm really curious about your thoughts here. But
Hmm.
a friend of mine told me the story once. She was doing a women's leadership group, and in talking to this group of women, she said that she started asking them, "Well, who are you?" And
Hmm.
everyone started to answer the question, but what she didn't like is that the way the women in the room answered the question was by leading with their job titles.
Right.
And she said, no, 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 no. I want to know who you are. If I were to take these titles away from you, because some of them had some great titles, they had a lot of
Hmm.
responsibilities. Some of them were executive directors, vice
Hmm.
presidents. There were a couple of CEOs in there. And she said, about 30 minutes in to everybody having some group conversation, she said that there were all of these powerful women in the group crying because peeling away those titles and just asking them who they would be without those titles was something that they found it very difficult to manage. And I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I had to stop at some point and ask myself, okay, if you lost this job today, who would you be? And I wound up losing the job about a year later. So, do you find that that is common, especially in corporate America, and that's why maybe so many people need to invest in their mindset? Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that we all seem to gravitate towards this identity based on the job that we have or the title that we have. And at the end of the day, that's not who we are. Because as you said, you can lose the job or you could change the job. And so that's not you. But I think we get so attached to this persona that it's hard to let go of it. And that's a big mindset shift we have to really take on for ourselves. It's that work is only a part of our lives. It's not the end all be all, but we get so consumed by, achieving the success and climbing the ladder that it really it takes a shift to start looking at success in different ways.
You're listening to For Our Edification. I'm Eddie Francis, and we're talking to Andrea McLean, and she's a speaker who I got the pleasure of meeting here at Podapalooza. And she talks about moving from setback to soaring in a talk that she does with folks, and she talks a lot about mindset. So let's talk about you and your personal leadership. How does the work that you do, how does it inform your personal leadership and outside of work? How does that inform your personal growth and development?
So the work that I do, if I'm going to be a coach, I want to be a great coach. I just don't want to coach just, and say I got one certification and I'm good, I'm done. So in terms of my personal growth and development and leadership, I often do other coaching certifications. So that way I'm staying on top of my game and that I can be of more service to my clients that I am dealing or working with. So for me, growth and development is important. I like to stay curious. I like to learn things. For example, now with the advent of AI, I'm not one of those people who will say, oh, I don't think I'm going to go there. I try to learn. How are other people using it? And what can I do to help it make my business run more efficiently? So I'm big on growth and development. And even if it's a topic outside of your normal learning, every learning is good learning. And sometimes it's good to learn something new, totally different from what you're normally learning, because that could spark some creativity and some innovation as well.
Is that something that you would say that you do to practice personal or practice personal leadership? Is learning a big part of it, or what else do you do to actually practice your personal growth and development? What's in your toolkit?
So in my toolkit, aside from doing the personal growth and development, my toolkit is about leading with respect, leading with empathy, understanding where people are coming from, because I need to know who the person is. They might be telling me one thing, but when I'm reading between the lines, I'm seeing or hearing something. So part of my leadership is listening. And that's one of the things that I've always been, like applauded for is listening because you listen not only with what you're hearing audibly, but you listen for that body language, you listen for the tone, you listen for the intent. Because I think that makes you a better leader when you're a great listener. So
Yeah.
that's part of my leadership as well.
So you will appreciate this. So my wife is she's a program director at a university. She actually did this virtual training, and it was women in leadership in academia.
Hmm.
And we don't know who to attribute this to, but someone in the meeting said, "Don't get so consumed with hitting the ground running as a leader. Hit the ground listening." And so I have a
Great.
great appreciation for what it is that you just said. Do you find that for a lot of folks, that can be a very hard thing to actually quiet themselves and quiet their minds and to
Mhm.
take in what's happening so that they can advance.
Yes, and I think it's because we're in this microwave society where like we need to do things right now or a decision has to be made right now.
Yes.
But what I've found over my years is that many times when we make the decision right now, we're not stepping back to really listen to what's going on to make a more informed decision. And you end up making a decision that you have to retract or you have to adjust because you didn't listen to all of the stakeholders involved. So I actually did a workshop for my peers, and it was about listening with the intent to understand. And it was amazing that, a few of them said, I know when I'm listening, I'm already ahead. I already know what I'm going to say. Like I'm really not listening. And you miss a lot when you don't listen. And,
Right.
people don't feel like they're seen. They don't feel like they belong as part of the team. They feel like they're just there to get their jobs done, but they're not integrated with what the bigger purpose is. So, yeah, it's hard to do, but I think as leaders, we have to train ourselves to pause and listen so that we can serve our teams in the best way, but also make the best decisions and timely. I'm not saying to listen for a year, but we sometimes we just need to listen before we jump to conclusions and make decisions.
So shifting back to personal leadership and what it looks like for
Mhm.
Andrea, what are the times, and I'm asking this because I'm always kind of hard on myself about this. Are there times when you have to remind yourself to even listen to yourself?
No, not really, because I'm
You are so
always,
fortunate.
yeah, I'm always listening. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I always have this list. People will seek me out because they know I'm going to listen. And
Hmm.
then once I listen, I might coach them to take a different path or adjust, but I listen a lot. That's a strength I have.
It really is because I mean, I can't tell you how many times I will do something and I'm saying, Eddie, listen to yourself. And then I'll do the opposite. and then it'll and then it'll come back to me and I'm going, why didn't I just listen to myself? Because I
Right.
knew that I was about to make an uninformed decision or I
Hmm.
knew that I was about to make this impulsive decision.
Right.
And part of it is, and I'm learning a lot about this with my therapist is having to deal with that emotional regulation,
Right.
that
Hmm.
being able to slow myself down and take a deep breath and say, okay, if you know that's the better decision, go with that decision.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've got to a place where like I'll hear something in my
Yeah.
mind, you should do this or you should, and I follow it because it's usually right.
Yeah.
When I don't listen, that's when I might have to now retract and figure out how I'm going to navigate my way out. So
Hmm.
I try to stay attuned to what I'm hearing in terms of my next step.
You just seem like a really disciplined person.
Yeah, I am. I mean, my family will tell you, like my husband will say, I only eat certain things in certain portions because it's not good for me or whatever. He's like, You're not like us. We might eat half the ice cream container. You'll eat one scoop and you're done." So, yeah.
Okay, hold on. See, stop. Now I have to figure out what planet are you from? Because I'm sorry, if I have a pint of Neapolitan ice cream right here, I mean it's a pint of Neapolitan ice cream. I can't resist this. I I,
Yeah, but
I
I
can't
look
do
at
just
it and
one
I say,
spoon or scoop.
you know, my body doesn't need the whole thing, so I'm just gonna eat a spoon and I'm done. I'll put it away and I'm done. It's
Huh. All right. Okay. All
I
right.
often would joke, that for me, food is to survive. It's not like I don't eat because I love to eat. So maybe
Mhm.
that's why. It's a discipline I
Oh, well,
have.
that is different. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I love to eat, and I'm
Okay.
surrounded by, and in New Orleans, we love to eat. I mean,
Yeah, and you have good food in New Orleans too. So yeah.
it doesn't help that we have fantastic food. That
Yeah.
doesn't help at all.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I want to bounce back really quickly to coaching. So whenever you work with folks, especially when you're going through your methods, whether you're going through SOAR, whether you're going through FLAP,
Mm-hmm.
um, How often do you find when you're talking to folks that you have to be patient with them though? Because I imagine being a disciplined person when you talk to somebody like me who's like, no, I want the pints. And so I imagine it's like, okay, Eddie, slow down. So what is that process like for you to have to slow yourself down so that you can slow them down? Or what is that like for you?
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that. So I've also been told that I have the patience of Job.
You
So
must.
so I'm not, I believe in the best of everyone. So I will listen and hear out what it is that they're going through. Like, what's this mindset? What's this journey? Instead of saying, making a judgment saying, oh, by now you should know you shouldn't be doing this. No, because they're at a different place. So I need to understand that place and patiently walk them through. Not that I won't hold them accountable or say, I think we might need to take a different path here. But again, we're not going to get a good outcome if I'm rushing along in the process and not really getting the client to be able to express what it is that's on their mind or the challenge is that they're dealing with.
So, and the dog agrees with you. Uh, oh, that dog. So I always love to ask my guests this last question, and I
Mhm,
want you to imagine that you are a skywriter and you have an airplane, and you get to fly into the sky, and you get to write out whatever message you want for the edification of the nation. So,
mhm.
Andrea, in your plane, in your skywriting, what would you write?
I would write that it's not too late to be your future self.
Outstanding. Outstanding. If anyone wanted to find out more about you, how can they do so?
Well, I'm all over social media, so you'll find me Andrea C. McLean on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. But you can also go to my website, www.andreacmclean.com. And don't forget the C because there are other Andrea McLeans out there.
Outstanding. Andrea, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining me or for our edification.
Thank you so much, Eddie. It's a pleasure talking with you today.